Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. This is Coffee with CRGroup, leading budgeting and planning systems for the new normal. My name is Thomas Ironstone, and I'm the manager of corporate performance management and business intelligence here at CRGroup. It's my pleasure to be here with you all today and discuss ways to transform your business budgeting this year. I'd also like to introduce my co-host today, Donna Paoletti, who's been a business solutions consultant at CRGroup for almost 20 years now and specializes in costing, budgeting, and corporate performance management solutions. She's also the team lead for Workday Planning and Rapidstart, which is one of our newest budgeting tools for small medium enterprise. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. This webinar is being recorded and will be sent to all participants later in the week. We welcome your questions, so please type them into your GoToWebinar panel and we'll do our best to answer all of them at the end of the session. This event does qualify for 1 professional development hour. You'll be getting a certificate along with the video recording. And finally, it wouldn't be Coffee with CRGroup without coffee, so please keep an eye out for a coffee gift card that will be sent out later today. So today's agenda, we'll talk a little bit about our experience and what we see. We're going to go over 7 year-end budgeting challenges. And of course, with talking about challenges, we have to talk about tips for overcoming those challenges. Then we're going to review our top 4 budgeting systems. Then we're going to discuss the return on investment of effective budgeting by actually looking at real-world case studies. We're going to go through some quick examples and then some Q&A at the end. A little bit about Corporate Renaissance Group. Really, from a high level, you can think of us in 3 sort of main buckets: move, operate, and innovate. So essentially in move, we help companies essentially modernize their outdated systems and processes and help them adopt systems from a fully technical and business standpoint. So we have full end-to-end services with skill set that ranges of all the CPA, CFA, MBA type individuals with all the technical background to help with that transition. From an operate standpoint, we help our customers optimize and streamline business processes to help empower their team members, to help prove collaboration and communication, and deliver on those projects with exceptional service. And finally, innovation. Our team of certified experts will help companies push the limits, think outside of the box, and help deliver on closing performance gaps with our solutions and expertise. At CRGroup, we're also a partner of leading business systems, including Microsoft, Board, Rapidstart, Tableau, Workday Planning, and idu-Concept. We help our clients transform, focus on the long-term business growth. So when we help them understand what solutions will help address these needs, we focus on solutions that they can continue to grow and evolve with. And fully understanding there's no one size fits all for organizations when it comes to budgeting and planning, that's where we come in to help understand. So we asked the top FP&A challenges in the wake of COVID-19, and many of you said things like cash flow, accuracy of data for scenario planning, forecasting, getting the right reports out to the right people, and the processes that are being dependent on finance instead of leadership collaboration. And you're not alone. Many organizations are trying to filter through understanding what's going on and how to still keep organizations afloat and provide the right information, and many are posed with many of these challenges. So fully understanding that as we're going through our budgeting and forecasting cycles, the top 7 challenges really focus a lot around existing processes, manual processes. So the top one is the existing process is largely manual, spreadsheet-based Excel type model. And there's so much time that's spent on administering the budget and the forecast, and there's not enough time spent on analysis. So this is a big challenge for many FP&A and finance teams. The second challenge is that participants are unclear of the actual budgeting cycle and the actual inputs that go into it. So understanding the key requirements, the milestones and deadlines. So even though this is something that happens routinely each year, the participants and the business leaders that are involved with that sometimes don't remember what's required of them and when it's required by. So this can be a challenge, especially now when we're trying to do this on a more frequent basis. The third biggest challenge is contributors have trouble accessing the latest budgets and forecasts. So as they're getting updated, and so in many cases where the budget is just prepared once a year, and many times organizations weren't even doing forecasting or reforecasting. Now it's required more frequently, and being able to get that out to them and delivering it into a format that they can get the latest and greatest and not be looking at something outdated. So that continues to be a challenge for many organizations. The fourth biggest challenge is having business leaders prepare purely dollar-based budgets. It's just not meaningful to them in many cases. So whether it's revenue or expenses, trying to tell the business what they're expecting from a top line and bottom line standpoint can be difficult for them to articulate without truly understanding what goes into it. So asking non-finance people to prepare purely dollar-based budgets can many times be a challenge. The fifth biggest challenge is slow turnaround for budget revisions. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of time spent on preparing the budget, even preparing the reforecast. And then if there's some revisions or top-down guidance on what should change, to get those revisions out and get people to update the detailed plan can be very time-consuming. And this, in a very manual, spreadsheet-based world, can be very, very challenging. The sixth biggest challenge that we've been finding as well is if we're in a manual Excel spreadsheet-based world is that when we're preparing the budgets, that the accounts, the chart of accounts, the dimensionality is not synchronized with the accounting system. So many times they might just be using captions, or if they are using accounts, they might not be up to date. Cost centers, departments might change and things of that nature. And because it's not actively synchronized with the accounting system, it can become a very manual routine to link it back and try to load it up and line it up against our actuals to do variance analysis. And finally, the seventh biggest challenge is constantly recreating reports and presentation while the revisions are being made. So as you can imagine, you've gone through the budget cycle, you've prepared these reports, presentations, and is referring to budget data. And then if a change is required to be made, you have to go back and copy and paste all these charts, these tables back into all of your documents. And it's quite time consuming and cumbersome. And a lot of finance teams find that there's so much time lost in that process. So now I'm sure many of those items, maybe at least one or maybe all seven, resonated with a lot of the individuals on the webinar today. So of course, talking about challenges, naturally we want to talk about tips on how to overcome these challenges, especially in the wake of COVID-19. So the first tip is essentially to start streamlining and automating your templates. So whether we're in Excel or whether we're in a software platform, the idea is to come up with the concept of using structured templates. So as structured as you can get them, that they can be reused and that they're linked to, say, your chart of accounts, or if they're linked to live data sheets within those workbooks, can actually go a very, very long way. And so understanding that if the data can be automatically written, whether we're pulling in actuals to then feed into those templates that we're producing reports off of, or whether we're writing data back to our ERP system or to another reporting tool, is to set up those templates in such a way that they're linked, that we don't have to go through the manual process of having to compile everything at the end of the day. So many organizations understand it's a challenge. Some organizations are kind of getting through the process of understanding how to link these. However, still in the Excel-based world is making it multidimensional. So if we're looking at a particular template, and even though we might be looking as an example, if we're doing cost center budgeting, where we might have a specific set of accounts. However, if we have 40, 50, 100 different departments or cost centers, and having to copy those different templates to different workbooks or to different tabs can also be a bit time consuming. So that can be done within Excel, but in many cases, budgeting tools have this part already figured out. So you essentially develop your template once, the structure once, you're inputting your data, and you're essentially filtering on your different cost centers, you're inputting your data and it's getting aggregated automatically. So there's some stuff that can be done to Excel with certain limitations, and there's some things that can naturally be addressed within budgeting platforms. The second tip is to ensure clarity in the business process and cycle, so around the budgeting and reforecasting cycle. And again, as I mentioned, even though this is something that might be a common business process, we find that the individuals involved can get amnesia and forget what's required of them and that this is an important business process. So what many organizations that we work with is helping them establish a clear and consistent communication plan. Make sure that it's endorsed by the leaders. So the communication gets sent out on a cycle that understands what the guidance is coming from the executive team, what is required of the different business leaders, what are key assumptions, what are the deadlines, and what's required by whom and when. And being able to produce that communication plan and have it go out on the cycle helps make the process a lot easier to manage because you're setting expectations. Everyone receives the same documentation, or whether it's on a portal somewhere, and people know the timelines. It makes a big difference being able to send that out ahead of time so people can prepare for it, get it into their calendars, and set up tasks so they know what's required of them and when. And what we also find is creating a very visual workflow as well with the milestones and deadlines. So of course, this can be done in a table type format where you assign tasks to individuals with due dates. However, we see organizations also looking to make it a bit more visual, whether it's a process flow diagram with the deadlines, with tasks assigned to individuals, so they see the natural process flow of the different steps that are involved in the planning process. And then we can constantly, as individuals that are in the budget cycle, refer back to this plan and guideline frequently. Tip number 3 is to make all budgets and data accessible. So no matter where the budget contributors are, they cannot have the excuse that they're unable to submit their budget on time because they don't have access to the latest template or to a particular file. So it's trying to, ahead of time, make sure all files are there and available for them. So this can be done in a variety of different ways. Whether you're doing this in Excel, you can leverage the concept of collaboration tools, whether the file is on a shared network or if it's in, as an example, Microsoft Teams. That's one way of sharing a file where multiple individuals contribute, collaborate on it, and they're using the latest and greatest. Modern budgeting tools as well. So to get you out of the Excel-based world, you're typically logging in through a web-based portal, which individuals can access anywhere, whether it's locally within their intranet, or if it's external, obviously providing, if it's cloud-based and providing all the proper security so people can access the budget. They have security restrictions, so they only see what pertains to them. They're inputting, updating their data, their budget data, so everything's getting automatically aggregated. And there's also the concept of, with the modern budgeting tools as well, which a lot of companies are taking advantage of, is the Excel integration. So even though everything's in the cloud, being able to take something down locally into an Excel spreadsheet can actually go a long way as well. So understanding that maybe travel is not happening so much right now, but if an individual doesn't have access, say, to consistent Wi-Fi, or if they need to take something down locally, which then they don't have VPN access for whatever reason, being able to work offline on a spreadsheet and then being able to upload it back into the budgeting application can allow the individual to work offline, and it's not going to stop them from getting their budget in on time or getting their updated forecast in on time, even though if they have connection challenges. And finally, mobile access. So if an individual doesn't have immediate access to their work laptop, as an example, workstation, being able to have the mobile access, being able to pull up the latest report, being able to do an approval from your mobile device can go a long way as well to keep everything moving along. Tip number 4 is to avoid purely dollar-based budgets. So as I was mentioning earlier, is if you're having non-finance people prepare dollar-based budgets, which it needs to happen because we need to prepare our financials, we need to know what the outlook looks like. However, when you're holding individuals accountable for it, they need to understand the drivers. And so when we're building out, say, these different templates in Excel, is to spend time with the business leaders to understand what the key drivers are of their financials, whether it's on the revenue or expense side. Because the simplest example that I can always think of is on the sales side, if you're working with the sales team, where they might not just be thinking in terms of total revenue dollars, they might be thinking in terms of unit volumes and different price lists. So if you're able to break out the templates in that fashion, it allows the individual to understand the volume of sales, as an example, that they need to achieve at what price, and then they can plan accordingly. So of course, as the year starts and they've already prepared their budget, they can start doing proper variance analysis as well. So they can see where the variance is coming from. Is it coming from price, quantity, or is it coming from mix, whatever it may be? And it makes it much more meaningful for them, and it goes such a long way. And this can be done with a variety of different volumetrics on the revenue or expense side. So some examples could be number of transactions, number of hours spent, number of deliverables, whatever it may be. The fifth tip is to speed up the turnaround time of budget revisions. And so being able to do a lot of this through collaboration tools or through modern budgeting platforms, a lot of it is already done in real time. So as they're updating their budgets, as they're doing revisions, it's already done on the fly. So they're inputting their data, inputting their revisions, and everything's automatically aggregated. And you don't have to wait for a new spreadsheet to be sent out or sent back and then aggregate all of the data to get the reports out to the business leaders. It can be done automatically if you're working within a modern budgeting platform or leveraging collaboration tools if you're in the Excel-based world to be able to update the files in real time as opposed to sending everything around manually. So this can help a lot with the budget revision process. Tip number 6 is to synchronize your budgets and reports with your accounting system. So you can, many times, even if you're in Excel, is to create those structured linkages between your chart of accounts, as an example, your dimensionality that exists in your ERP, to link it back. So as they're inputting their budget data, if you're not just working with very generalized captions, if you have proper dimensionality built into those spreadsheets, or of course, if you're working within a budgeting platform as well, which all the core structures are based around your chart of accounts and based around your ERP dimensionality, having it linked to your accounting system can go a long, long way and eliminate a lot of the manual process that's done around trying to link it back to your accounting system, link it up and line it up with your actuals. Being able to have that synchronization and integration saves a lot of time and headache and error as well. And finally, being able to keep the reports up to date is so critical. So if you're doing a presentation after you've gone through the budget cycle, or if you're doing a quarterly presentation to management, if you have a figure that's incorrect or out of date, you'll immediately lose the interest of the folks in the room, because they're not going to rely on what you're talking about at that point. And you might just say, take my word for it, but if they see something that's off, then they'll say, what am I wasting my time here for? And fully knowing that the FP&A team, the finance team, even the business users that have collaborated have spent so much time compiling everything. So being able to have the reports that are being presented, whether it's in PowerPoint, whether it's in Word, whether it's in a dashboard, whether it's in Excel, to make sure that it's up to date. So having those linkages back to the ERP, back to the core budget model, and in many cases, if you're evaluating a budgeting platform, to have a full integrated CPM platform, a full integrated corporate performance management platform that seamlessly integrates the budgeting and reporting components and presentation components, will save a lot of that headache, having to rebuild everything, rebuild the reports, and then being worried that something's not something's out of date. So this will go a long way, save a lot of headache, and save a lot of time. Now, after understanding some challenges, some tips for overcoming them, we'll discuss a bit about the return on investment of implementing automated budgeting and reporting platforms. And we'll talk about how some other companies have achieved FP&A success. So one of the first companies introduced would be Telesat as an example. So this is a global organization with 20 budget managers, 40 directors worldwide, continuing to evolve, 5 companies, 60 organizations, and they've implemented a multi-currency financial and reporting budgeting platform to help address their needs. So with this project, it was intended to deploy multi-currency financial reporting for management, along with budget variance and foreign exchange impact. So be able to automate the whole process of budget data comes in, reports are updated, actuals are flowing in from the ERP, and also being able to do scenario planning. So one of the key drivers here would be around exchange rates. So being able to understand what the forward-looking exchange rates might be and understand what the impact will be from a bottom line standpoint, and also from a treasury standpoint as well. And of course, being able to integrate with the ERP to ensure that everything is up to date. Another example is Carmana. Again, multinational, 7 companies in 5 countries, 12 different verticals, 13 different cost centers. And the goal here was to implement consolidated reporting, budgeting, along with sales KPIs. So with this, building out the full process of the consolidated reporting buildup, all of the working papers, FX conversion, CTA, eliminations and adjustments, and being able to turn around on the month-end process, turn that around a lot quicker. Of course, along with the actuals and the reporting, the consolidated reporting was getting the budget model and reforecasting done on a more frequent basis. So this is setting up all the individual components that they would need to plan for around revenue, cost of goods sold, operating expenses, personnel and workforce planning, capital expenditures, with all of the data entry at the subsidiary company level, which have their own unique chart of accounts. So having all the linkages, the integrations built out, everything rolling up and automated. And along with that, of course, keeping track of the sales process, the sales cycle, looking at revenues, bookings, and backlog on a more frequent basis with products, slices by products, customers in the different verticals, and of course, integration to their ERP. And the final example that I'll discuss is OSEG, Ottawa Sports and Entertainment, where they had over 100 games a year, 34 departments, 10 companies, and they had challenges with limited integration between their financial systems and subsystems. And so the project there was to create an FP&A platform that will allow them to do budgeting and planning and reforecasting for all home games, away games, events, being able to do all of the personnel planning and driver-based planning that are related with that, and then be able to turn around their financials in a more timely fashion, again with integration back to their ERP system. So now understanding some return on investment that companies can actually get from implementing these solutions, one thing you might be asking yourselves, understanding that there's different tools out there, what features you should be looking for? What would be right for your company? So a few examples of features that us as an organization that we look for in the platforms that we choose to partner with, you can see on the top layer, understanding the accessibility, being able to understand that individuals need mobile access and things on the go. So if the tool has that mobile access, be able to look at up-to-date reports, be able to say move along workflow as well, that can go a long way if it's through your mobile device as opposed to always having to say be at your PC. Broadcasting functionality we're finding from a reporting standpoint can be very powerful, meaning scheduling the distribution of reports and alerts so that you don't necessarily have individuals to go into the system, but being able to automate it so it's almost pulling them into the system or alerting them when something happens. Collaboration is very critical. So individuals, a big reason to go, companies going to these systems is because of the multi-contributor process. So be able to take advantage of collaboration, having people work together, provide inputs collectively goes a long way. So whether it's inputting data into the different templates for their different responsibility centers, cost centers, and profit centers, but also being able to chat within the tools, being able to share things, being able to provide comments also goes a very long way. Scalability for business needs is also really important in the sense that you might be looking for something today to fill a particular gap or need, but it's also important to look into the future, that where is your organization going to be a year from now? Where is it going to be 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now? And think what tool will grow with us. So being able to understand what those needs are, your scalability needs, how you might be growing as an organization, maybe evolving business lines, looking for a tool that can work with your organization and continue to grow with you is critical. Self-service is so important. Whether we're working in the finance department or IT department, we want to get out of the world of just preparing reports. The idea is you want to have a report set up, have everything automatically updated, and people can go and access it themselves, but also be able to do some self-service analysis on top of that. So be able to drill down, filter, slice and dice data without having to constantly ask the finance team or IT group for data, for reports, and help them be more enabled and more independent to help make important business decisions on the fly, as opposed to having that that lag in getting data to making a decision. Exception reporting and alerts. So obviously being able to color code, condition the different reports and dashboards to draw attention is very critical. Dashboarding and visualization, obviously. So getting beyond just looking at financial statements, being able to show visual data is critical. Having process controls, access controls is important. So whether it's around workflow, having it customized to meet the needs, which individuals can access which sets of data, along with which departments. Being able to automate the financial statements. So around month-end process, being able to get the data and reports out rapidly is critical. And then finally, the bottom layer here, which is very important, goes around all the additional business value-added components. So the what-if analysis, the reforecasting. So before this was nice to have, now this is a need to have. Being able to update your outlook, your updated reforecasts on a more timely basis, do scenario analysis is so critical. Being able to do top-down budget entry from a executive standpoint. So as it might be prepared top-down and bottom-up, and maybe you need to go top-down again based on guidance from management, having that flexibility is critical. We know we're in a globalized world where we're working with businesses across the border, across the globe, and so being able to have multi-company, multi-currency is critical. So as we continue to grow and evolve, having that functionality, understanding the importance of exchange rates, and being able to grow, add new companies within the fold of your reporting models is critical. Business and driver-based modeling, of course, is important. So as I was mentioning before, getting away from truly just dollar-based budgets and being able to build out your different driver-based templates is important. And then also template designer functionality to build templates that are most meaningful to your organization. Now let's meet our leading business budgeting and forecasting systems that we have found. So we've spent a lot of time looking out on the market and what tools are available to us, and which platforms we think meet the needs of different organizations based on size and on different growth areas. So our key products are Rapidstart, Workday Planning, idu-Concept, and Board. So with Rapidstart, I'll be handing it off shortly to my colleague Donna to discuss, but at a very high level, it's tailored towards small to medium-sized businesses, relatively out of the box to get smaller organizations up and running quite quickly with very simple needs. Workday Planning is recognized by Gartner as a leader in CPM in the cloud space, and this is designed for more medium to large based organizations and continue to grow and adapt to your planning process. With idu-Concept, also recognized by Gartner as one of the top 25 corporate planning applications. It fits perfectly for medium to large organizations as well, and it has a SQL backend, and it's designed around budgeting and planning and forecasting, and is really designed for business users from a planning standpoint. And finally, Board, also recognized by Gartner, is truly a modeling tool. So you can grow and model it any which way you want. And it goes beyond planning and budgeting, where you can also do strategy maps, balance scorecards, and things of that nature. So from a side-to-side comparison, these were some pieces of functionality as we were discussing that the tool should have. So around data source integration, what if analysis, driver-based modeling, workflow approval routing. You'll see that that's really one of the key differences there. All of them have it, where in Rapidstart it's a pre-built structure. And around financial consolidation, if that's required, it's more within Workday and Board. However, if financial consolidation is not required, all of the tools can deliver these needs as well. Additional needs that we're talking about as well, features you should be looking for, collaboration capabilities, accessibility. Every one of these platforms is available in browser, where Workday, IDU, and Board can be available in mobile. Broadcasting capabilities are all there, except for in Rapidstart. It's designed for a more simplistic basis. As you'll see, it also has a limit on number of accounts and projects. With modeling, it's in all of the tools, except for Rapidstart, again, designed for more simplified needs. And then for predictive analytics, you'll see that's where one of the main differences are, which IDU and Board have. And for deployment options, they're all available in the cloud, and where Board is available in the cloud on-premise, and Rapidstart is the tool because it's intended for more simplistic needs that has self-service setup. So now let's take a look. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Donna to talk a little bit about Rapidstart.
Thank you, Tom. So as Thomas mentioned, the first product that we're going to talk about is Rapidstart. And as you saw from the slide, it's the simplest tool. It's really meant to give you out-of-the-box functionality to meet basic needs, and it's not really configurable. There are customizations that you can do to it, but once you do that, you start adding onto the price tag, and it doesn't make sense. It makes sense to go with one of the other tools. So we recommend this to the small to medium-sized companies who are looking for something that's a step above Excel. And Rapidstart is really modules-based. So what it does is it allows you to budget and forecast based on, sections of your budget, like revenues, expenses, payroll, capital, financing, loans, that sort of thing. And you can budget below the line of detail. So, think of a typical budgeting process is I'm budgeting my particular account balance for the month. Well, this tool allows you to, say, do below the line item details. You might justify your travel budget in a month based on 3 different conferences that you're going to, and you can, kind of itemize those conferences, and they will sum up and give you the details that you need. One of the nice things as well with Rapidstart is even though it's a basic tool, it does come with fully incorporated financial statements. So your P&L, your balance sheet, and your cash flows are automatically planned and created through the system based on the budgets that are being created. And then there's, of course, the ability to do reporting on top of that. We are talking about the professional version of Rapidstart when we're looking at what's included with the features and functionality. So it really is purely a planning and budgeting tool. As Thomas mentioned, there are some restrictions, so it allows you only to hold up to 300 accounts. And these are natural accounts, so we haven't found too many small organizations that find this limit too restricting. So this could be your salaries expense, your travel expense, those sorts of things. Your financial statements are actually integrated directly out of the system. So you get projections for your profit, your loss, your balance sheet, your cash flow. There is a workflow perspective in there. So you can see who has submitted the budgets and what status the budgets are in. It does support multi-entity management and different currencies. So if you've got, different divisions divisions or departments or companies in different currencies, we can create those exchange rate tables and can budget in the native currency, and the exchange rates will be rolled up. And then the modules themselves are almost like the template. So, Thomas referred to the 7 challenges and the solutions, and his first challenge was the ability to create templates. So this tool comes with out-of-the-box payroll for either the US or Canada. And it allows you to plan employees or positions or department salary expenses, taking into account CPP, EI, all of those sorts of things. And it does allow you to plan capital and those sorts of things. The nice thing with this as well is that it gives the users, it's entirely web-based, and it gives the administrative users the ability to back up and restore. So let's say you had a catastrophic event that you needed to bring back yesterday's budget model, we can do that as long as you've got a process in place to back it up. And within Rapidstart itself as well is that we've got the ability to create custom reports. So anything that is interesting to you from the business, if you need to manage that from a budget perspective, you can create those reports. And along with that, it comes with a standard report library of the most common reports. It does support intercompany elimination entries, and it's got a nice dashboard feature. So when you log in through the browser, the dashboard is the first thing you see, and you've got drill down capabilities. So for a small system, it's quite cost effective. 5 users, you can get it up and running for less than $4,000 US, including the software licenses and the upfront configuration. So it's a great first step into the budgeting process, but it does have limitations in terms of the ability to model and customize and meet your needs from a budget requirement if you don't meet the standard out of the box requirements. So the next product that we're going to take a look at is Workday's Adaptive Planning. And this is actually meant for, medium to larger size organizations. It's configurable completely in terms of the account structure and the organization structure, but you'll see, it's got a very similar look and feel to Excel, but the templates and everything that we're going to be looking at are configurable. So the limitations of a smaller software or a basic software with limited functionality are certainly overcome with a tool like Workday. As Thomas mentioned, they are, a leading tool that Gartner recommends in their reports. They've been in the cloud, built for the cloud entirely from their beginning. Adaptive Insights was bought out by Workday probably 2 years ago now. Time passes very quickly, but they have had phenomenal growth in terms of the customer base, the partner base, the profitability, the market share. They're at the core of Adaptive Insights, or Workday, is the planning module, budgeting and planning, and then the reporting and consolidation and all of those kind of sit on top of that. So it's really truly a suite of products with planning at the core. There's a discovery module which gives you the beautiful dashboarding capabilities, and there's all sorts of beautiful gauges and waterfall charts and graphs that can be created, and these perspectives can be different for the various users. So we talked about reporting and who are the audiences and the collaboration. The information in Adaptive is always kind of saved, and there's only one version of the truth. So anybody that's going to be looking at the information through a discovery dashboard will always be seeing the most up-to-date information. There's a consolidation module which supports the intercompany transactions and do-tos and do-froms and percentages of ownership, and then there's some very neat reporting capabilities. And on top of that, as Thomas mentioned, one of the things that we want to do, with a pain point is sometimes your budgeting and planning systems are not in sync with your ERP systems. So Adaptive has a great integration platform where we can actually help you integrate to various source systems. And again, it's not limited to just your financial information. As Thomas mentioned, you want to actually, incorporate driver-based information or volumetrics, such as number of units and those sorts of things. So if that data is sitting somewhere else, we can actually integrate and pull that data in to the various sources. So when we talk about planning, it's the sort of the same as I discussed with Rapidstart, in that you're going to be getting your integrated financial statements like your balance sheet, your cash flow, your P&L. But on top of that, this gives you the ability to structure and create templates for any part of your business where they are meaningful. So Thomas talked about the classic example. If you want to plan revenues by actually, looking at the units sold and the price per units, maybe some discounts. You can look at it by product, by customer. All of those capabilities are available in Adaptive, and they're defined by you, the business users, and we help, set it up and implement it so you can take it from there. On top of, the revenue examples, a very large expense base is personnel, so we often like to have detailed personnel sheets, travel, capital, all sorts of those things. So there's no limitations in terms of the modeling or the templates that you can create for data entry purposes. And then on the other side of that, when you want to actually get the data out and do your analysis and manage that data, we've got the dashboard capabilities where we can create the beautiful graphs. The perspectives can be different, so whether they're meant for executives versus finance versus departments, because it's an online and in the cloud solution offering, your login determines the security and the information that you see and what you're going to land on when you get into the system itself. On top of the dashboarding capability, there is reporting capability in Adaptive. Some of the reporting is meant to be self-service and analysis, so you can, drill down to the transaction level detail and determine why a dollar amount is what it is in a particular cell. And then, for things like the higher level executive board packs and those sorts of things, they actually have a tool called Office Connect, where you can actually link your Excel files to your Adaptive Insights model and automatically refresh these, board packs or reports in Excel, in PowerPoint, in Word by just simply clicking, changing the date, and all of the information is automatically synchronized. So again, back to, you're collaborating with everybody who's contributing, and there's always one version of the truth, and you're avoiding that manual manipulation. So that's our Office Connect piece there. So really, this tool is meant to be fast. Thomas talked about the return on investment. I mean, it does help to improve the cycle time. It's meant to be easy. It's meant to be affordable. So all of the challenges, that Thomas mentioned in terms of we don't know the process, our spreadsheets are manual, our information is out of date by the time that we get it. Our reports are hard to update. Tools like Adaptive Insights, the Workday tool, actually overcome those and result in a significant return on investment for a product like that. So I will send it back to Thomas, and he can discuss IDU and board software.
Thanks, Donna. So the next tool that we'll talk about is idu-Concept. It's been around since 1997, and this platform is truly designed to be industry agnostic. I'll talk about the technical pieces in a second, but it's a complete Microsoft-based platform in the sense that everything from the front to back end and all the integration services is built on the Microsoft stack. There's over 33,000 users that are using it globally, and as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, it's designed to be easily used by non-finance users. So the structures and all the process flows and the different modules are designed with non-finance users in mind. So from a technical standpoint, it is all web-based. So from the front end, accessing it through your browser based on HTML5. The back end is SQL Server, can be used across multi-browser. And then from a deployment perspective, it's primarily used on cloud, but if required, it can be used on-premise. So the value of idu-Concept, as I was mentioning, is designed to be user-friendly for non-finance users. So being able to help users across the business gain control of the FP&A process and get more involved without having to understand, say, the chart of accounts as an example. So all of the structures and everything are built with terminology and visually around concepts that would be most familiar to users across the business. Within idu-Concept, it will help achieve quicker turnaround times. So as you can imagine, around the budgeting process and month end, being able to make that process a lot quicker provides a lot of value to the organization from a return on investment standpoint. The goal of the platform is also to help the financial process be more in line with strategy by being in line with key objectives and having the core structures that are aligned with your business objectives. So with all that in mind, it's in effect empowering non-finance users to help gain ownership over the budgeting process. And it's all delivered through a cost-effective solution, the rapid ability to actually deploy this platform as well. So from a functionality standpoint, it interfaces with all common ERP systems. So it uses SQL Server analysis integration services to be able to integrate with any ERP system. So you can set the schedules, whether it's overnight or whether it's intraday or whatever frequency that's required. And you're able to view multiple views of the budget and financial data, and provides real-time aggregation across the structures. So meaning that if you're inputting data in a particular cost center, everything is automatically aggregated and rolled up. There's also tight security around the different budget holders. So if you want to assign individuals to certain groups within the organization and they can only access their cross sections of data or certain modules, you can lock that down. And if you continue to grow and deploy, you can add in different modules as well. So recently introduced within idu-Concept is financial modeling. So the existing structures and templates are already built out in IDU. However, the new functionality around financial modeling allows you to be more interactive with the budgeting process, meaning that the base set of data comes in, say your actuals, your core chart of accounts, financial structures. You define all of your key assumptions. You link the accounts to the different modules, and essentially you can define your different scenarios. So you're going through, you're updating your different variables, and based on all those base structures, it will spit out what the output is based on the changes. So it's almost like goal seek in a sense that you've built out your structures, you've created your linkages, and you can continue to run different scenarios and see what the output and impact will be on your bottom line. And so it provides a very quick, easy way to doing financial modeling and analysis. Also recently introduced in idu-Concept is predictive analytics. And for this platform, it's set up in such a way that you define your assumption set. You can set your number of periods of history. You can set your training window, meaning what it's going to learn from to run the different models. And then obviously set your confidence percentage. And in effect, it's spinning out your different forecasts. So whether it's your optimistic scenario, your forecast scenario, your pessimistic scenario, and based on your parameter settings, it will dictate what's going to happen into the future. So some additional functionality that's been added there, making idu-Concept, giving these features to even non-finance users to be able to run their different scenarios and continue to build out their budget model. Very powerful platform. And finally, we'll finish off with Board. Board is designed to be an all-in-one business intelligence and corporate performance management software. It's not module-based. It's really truly a modeling tool that allows you to deploy budgeting, planning, and forecasting, financial consolidation, balanced scorecards, and strategy maps using all the same tool set, essentially. You can access it through the web, your browser, Microsoft Office integration, and through your mobile device. You can build out very visual workflow within Board as well. So if you need to set up your different steps, you can make a very visual cause and effect type diagram to say these are the different steps, here are the due dates, and be able to deploy this out to all the end users so they can see each step in the process. And so as an administrator, you can see who is in progress, who's submitted, who's been rejected, what step of the process they're in, so they can know when to intervene. From a driver-based modeling standpoint, as I was mentioning, getting away from the purely dollar-based budgeting, you can build out all of your detailed driver-based plans, your different sheets for different rates and unit costs as an example, and refer to those and build them out in the calculations and be able to flex off those as well. In addition to storing numerical data, you can store text, comments, and documents in any of your different tables and charts and reports to be able to help supplement the budgeting and analysis process. You also have the ability to do reforecasting quite easily. So as actuals come in, it will replay in your forecast, whether it's within the year or if it's a rolling forecast, it will replace those months with actuals, and then you can update and reforecast for the forward-looking periods. For management reporting, you can deploy all of your integrated balance sheet and cash flow, all integrated back to your ERP system, linked in with your budgets. And then in addition to just displaying, say, your financial statements, because boards, both CPM and BI, on any view of your financials, you can include charts, gauges, graphs, whatever it might be to help supplement the analysis process, more than just static financials. You also have the ability to do interactive briefing books where you can flip the pages, filter, and drill down into the data and leverage this within your management and board of director meetings as opposed to having just static hard copies. And of course, visually having all the interactive charts, drill downs, and gauges and visual alerts are all available to you from an automated perspective. Board has a built-in functionality for predictive analytics. The module is called Beam, and it provides different forecasting and statistical models as well as clustering. All right, so that wraps up the session for today, and really the key goals. We wanted to discuss all of the common challenges out there around budgeting and forecasting, especially in the context of COVID, some of the tips for overcoming it, the return on investment for implementing these types of solutions, understanding what are some of the best of breed solutions that are out there for addressing those needs. Now, with all that in context, we open up, as we discussed in GoToWebinar, you can input your questions. I see there's already some there, and so we'll address them. All right, so the first question is, how does the data integration work with visualization tools like Tableau and Power BI for each platform? I'd assume that idu-Concept could offer a lot of flexibility since it uses Microsoft SQL Server. So really, this can be done in many different ways. Many organizations might already, when they're looking to implement a budgeting platform, might already have a tool that's a preferred data visualization tool. And so whether it's idu-Concept as is mentioned in the question, or if it's Rapidstart, or if it's Workday Planning, or if it's Board, you can get the data out in different ways. So as an example, if we're talking about idu-Concept, as you mentioned, SQL backend, and it is integrated already with Power BI. So yes, in theory, you could use Power BI to read off the data. And Donna, you can correct me afterwards, but with Adaptive Insights, while it does have its own discovery tool, we could potentially put the data back to, if you have another data warehouse or something of that nature, the data could in theory be written back if you have an existing tool for data visualization, if you choose not to use the discovery tool. So Donna, maybe you can.
That's correct. Yeah, I talked about the integrations kind of being pulling data out of the source systems, but the flip side is that you could actually push those that same data back into the source systems or a database or something like that, or even pull it into Excel and use it from there. So there's all sorts of ways to get the data out. So I always like to say, as long as the data exists in Adaptive, it can be reported on in some format. IDU is a little bit more restricted. You can still do, you know, Excel exporting and those sorts of things, but an integration to a different data warehouse so that somebody else or SQL can pick it up and read it. Sorry.
That's Rapidstart, right? Yep.
Oh, Rapidstart. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tom. Yeah, Rapidstart. So the data can be exported, but again, it's a little bit more restricted. You could probably structure it and then take that file and put it somewhere else. And again, Rapidstart was actually developed as sort of a pared down version of another budgeting tool called MaxiPlan that's very big in the sort of the Singapore and Asian space. So there is full-fledged capabilities. So when, you know, I'm talking about the out-of-the-box unlimited functionality of Rapidstart, what they have actually done is paired off and turned off some of the capabilities of the software and reduced the price tag. So, you know, if that's something that's of interest, we could actually ask them to sort of flip those switches back on, and then, you know, the price tag would go up a little bit, but the capability is certainly there for that tool as well.
And yeah, as we were talking about, yeah, IDU is already integrated with Power BI and Board, while it has its own data visualization capabilities as well. Board has write back capabilities to data warehouses as well. So if you need to write it back to a data warehouse where you might be reading off of SQL or might be reading off of Power BI from or Tableau from, then you can go that route. But our client base has many mix and match cases, meaning that we have clients that use Rapidstart, Workday Planning, IDU, and Board, and they might also be using different data visualization tools on top of that. So it comes down to the different business users, what the requirements are, and we help the organizations that we work with navigate through those types of decisions as well. Next question is, our company has multiple ERP systems. Can these tools integrate with multiple ERP tools? And so the answer is yes. Maybe Donna, I'll get you to talk about a bit on the adaptive Rapidstart side, and I'll talk a bit about on the IDU board.
Absolutely. So when we do integrations to the Workday Adaptive Planning instance, we actually, you know, undertake a mapping exercise and a staging table. So we could say, okay, you know, for this particular company and this ERP system, we're going to map those dollars, those transactions to these accounts and these levels in the organization. And then we can have another integration task, which says, let's pull the data from this, and, you know, and we're going to map it to a different set of expense accounts as an example, organization levels, those sorts of things. So you can create unlimited tasks, you know, and you can actually schedule these tasks. They most likely run, you know, overnight on a daily basis, and, you know, any exceptions, if, you know, an account doesn't exist in adaptive, et cetera, will be identified so that the users can deal with them. But we can create, you know, unlimited integrations. The pricing is actually based on, are you doing one integration or are you doing unlimited? Because they know that most folks want to integrate to more than one source system, whether it be ERP data or, you know, other non-financial, more driver-based data as well.
All right, thanks, Donna. And I know we're out of time, so I'll just quickly mention that the other tools can fully integrate to other ERPs. And if you have specific questions around those as well, please feel free to reach out to us. Also, like to encourage individuals to try out our free budgeting assessment around your budgeting needs if you have interest around understanding what tool might be best for you. So thank you very, very much for attending the webinar, and thank you, Donna, for presenting, and hope everyone has a great day.